everyone. Thanks for coming. So today we have a talk by Parker Pursell from eQRP. He's the strategic partner development person in eQRP. And today he's going to give us a talk on why your IRA is a ticking time bomb. Parker has 9 years of experience in customer service, coaching, and the development industry. He's passionate about helping individuals break free from the financial shackles that hold them captive and realize the power they have to decide their financial future. With that, I'll turn it over to Parker to give his presentation.
All right, Philip, I appreciate it. My name is Parker, and I still, if you make me the host, then I'll be able to share my screen, if you don't mind throwing that over real quick. All right, perfect. All right, can everybody see? Can you see it, Philip?
Yep, I can see.
All right, perfect. All right, so yeah, I'm a strategic partner developer here at the eQRP. Been here now for about a little over a year. I'm sure you heard just Philip, me talking a little bit about my background, but just a little bit about me and where I come from. This is my family farm here in Alabama. That's where our offices are, is Birmingham, Alabama. But this is in a rural part, southeast Alabama. And we have a family business out there. It's a small boutique resort. We have a golf course, 81 rooms, some restaurants, and but everything you see out there used to just be pasture and farmland. That's what I grew up on, and we've kind of developed it over the course of my life, and used to be in the fertilizer industry and now moved into hospitality, which is kind of what gave me a lot of my experience, where I went and worked with Chick-fil-A for a stint, and then came back and helped with a development project out there and ended up back here. So this is picture of my wife. We've been married now, be 7 years in May. She is a fitness coach here in Birmingham, and I love her to death. We don't have any kids yet, but we do have a little dog. And well, he's not little, he's about 70 pounds, but he's crazy though. But love her to death, and she really is kind of the reason why I get up and do what I do every day, and just so thankful to have her a part of my life and my journey. So moving into a more personal aspect about me, this is a picture of me on the left. I did a half Ironman up in New York back in July, and I actually finished a full one in Chattanooga in September. So part of the 3 things that guide me each day is faith, relationship, and competition. So all 3 of those things, if I can get better in each of those each day, then it makes me feel like I really have accomplished something. So if I can get better and walk with my faith, if I can engage in meaningful relationships, and then if I can compete in some sort of way, then I've accomplished what I wanted to. And so I go by a motto of progress, not perfection. I know none of us are perfect, but for me, if I can just get better a little bit each day, I know I'm going to mess up and trip along the way. Really feel like I can make a small difference in the world, which is really, I feel like a lot of us, what we try to do anyway, right? So we all know what this thing is, coronavirus, COVID. Really what put me here at the eQRP was the coronavirus. So I'd worked at my family business for about 4 years, and then was kind of hit a breaking point of a ceiling to where I didn't feel like I was growing anymore, but also felt like I needed a change of some sort. And so we had to furlough and lay off a lot of people, and I felt called to go ahead and put my name in that hat while I was out there. And I didn't have a job lined up, didn't know what I was going to do. Stepped out, started pressure washing for about 8 months, and it was great because it really just kind of calmed my mind, let me do some mindless tasks throughout the day, but paid all my bills. So uh, a friend of mine, we were in a kind of a men's group each week, and uh, he knew that I was looking for a job, and he said, "Hey, I think you need to come talk to my boss, and we're looking for somebody, and I think you and him would hit it off well." And so, being entrepreneurial in nature and really loving like the startup environment, we both really clicked on those values, and told me about this company called eQRP. And to be quite honest, like I had no idea what it was. I thought it was more of like a financial services company, like a Northwestern Mutual. I'm going to have to go take people out for coffee all the time and try to convince them to give me their money. And I was like, that is just not attractive to me. I need to be putting my hands on something, building something, growing something. And he said, no, 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 it's nothing like that. And he shared the vision with me. And it really felt a lot like, and this is a picture of William Wallace and Braveheart, but felt like we were on mission. And he said, what we're trying to do here is really empower people to make some positive change in their life financially. And we do that through a product called the eQRP, which our mission is to break the financial bondage and shackles that hold people, and do that for 1 million people. So that million number is very big in theory, because we need a goal that we can push out and stretch. Because if we said, well, we want to do it for 5,000 or 10,000 people, it's not going to really make you wake up each day and really push for the stars and stretch yourself and really ask, like, what creative, innovative ways can we do to get to that number? We need something that we feel like once that we attack that 1 million people and they become a part of our tribe, that's going to influx real change in their networks and allow some positive things to happen. And so I really kind of caught on to this mission of what they were doing and really started digging in even more. And so I asked, like, what's those shackles or that bondage that holds people down? And what most people don't know is that the IRS is really the ones who are holding most of us down, and we don't even know it. So what they're going to do over the course of your career in your earning lifespan is tax you at about 70% of what you'll ever make. So that's one thing we know true to be in this life is death and taxes, and the IRS is going to get theirs. And so for me coming into this company, the only way that I thought that I was going to really generate or create real wealth was going to be coming from uh, just I was going to earn more, get a raise, uh, hopefully make enough money each year to put me in a place of wealth, not really ask the questions, how do we get that number to zero in terms of taxes? And so for us to get to zero, we have to think differently, right? That's what Apple did. Apple thought differently. But for us, we have to ask the question, how do we invest differently? Investing really wasn't something I understood too much of. I thought of like stocks or mutual funds. Maybe you have some cool private placement deals, but very much elementary. And this community changed that for me in so many different ways. And that's how the EQRP entered my life. And it really, honestly, things that this company has taught me now are changing the trajectory of where my financial future will be 5-10 years from now, just because of information and knowledge and coaching and a community of people who really want uh, everybody that touches it to be in a better place than they were yesterday, right? And take advantage of an opportunity that comes that maybe they didn't know they had. So what we like to say the EQRP is, it stands for Enhanced Qualified Retirement Plan. It's our marketing on top of something that's very standard. But this plan in particular was created out of a need to have control. And that's what Damien did. He was very frustrated by the current system of the way he was manipulated and controlled with his money. And he said, there's got to be a better way. And so what he did is he dug into the tax code and created this plan inside the 401k structure that gives you ultimate control and flexibility to be able to invest in the things that you want. And so that's why I like to say it's the Ferrari of 401ks, because it's just like lighter fluid when it comes to opportunity and earning potential. And so we've helped free over $600 million of people's retirement money and take the financial bondage off of those individuals. And so this number is just a number. I think the more important number behind this is the lives impacted. And so for us right now, we currently have about 2,200 clients in our network that are, make up for this number. But this is just a reflection of what they have done personally. And that is continuing to grow each day as we're able to go out and share this message with them. So a lot of people ask, why haven't they heard of something like this? And why does nobody tell me about this? Well, it's because Wall Street, what they want is for you to not know. They like to pin themselves as the experts in the industry. They don't think you should have control over your money. What they want you to do is give you their money, or they want you to give them your money. And then what they're going to do is just charge you a fee and put it in a mutual fund and do the very things that you can do and have learned to do over the course of your investing journey, right? And so they get to pay for their country club memberships, their really nice BMWs, Mercedes, and they have no incentive to tell you because it takes money away out of their pockets. So what the eQRP is it's a self-directed 401k plan, but it gives you checkbook control. You can fund deals in 5 minutes or less. You've got liability protection built in. There's no UBIT tax, and we'll get into what that is in a little bit because it's associated with IRAs. And then you can also have this plan by yourself, or if you have employees as a small business owner. You've got different options of what you can invest in with this plan. You can do real estate. You've got global options that you can get into, gold and silver, Bitcoin. Obviously, that's super hot. I personally invested in crypto and love it. And I think the ability and opportunity to invest in it with your retirement is just awesome, because we're in a transitory shift right now within our financial system and markets and economic environment. So if you're not paying attention to it now, you need to start researching it a little bit more, but you can be able to invest in those things. So we're going to talk briefly on something. I don't know if y'all heard recently, but there's a ruling within the self-directed IRA tax courts, or the IRS ruled against self-directed IRAs in the tax courts, which basically took operating control away from an individual that owned an IRA with the LLC. So the way checkbook controlled LLCs work inside of IRAs is that you are the IRA owner, and then you have this LLC that you can invest out of. And the way they're built is that you are 100% the manager. And so the way that IRAs are legally structured is that you have to have a third or financial independent fiduciary responsible person oversee your IRA. And so these checkbook controlled IRAs were acting out of compliance. And in a court case recently, McNulty versus Commissioner, what happened was there's an individual who initiated some illegal moves inside of her checkbook controlled LLC, which she was the owner of, but there's no oversight with her IRA. And what the tax courts ruled is that, hey, you can no longer do this. Control has to be given back to the custodian, and they have to sign off on any transaction that's happening now. And last year or earlier this year, with the self-directed IRAs in Congress, that they were trying to get rid of it completely. The Congress and the IRS are two separate structures. So the IRS doesn't have to have Congress vote on anything for them to pass something. The IRS voted on this in their own tax courts, and so it's law. And Congress doesn't have to, like I said, sign off on it. So people with IRAs now are in a position to where they have to give managerial control to somebody else that's not them. And there's some ways that they're trying to get around it to where the person that signs off on your transactions or investments has to be somebody that's not you, your spouse, or your child, which is not really good advice, to be quite honest, but that's the only way that you could do it. So they're trying to ultimately just force money back into Wall Street. They're trying to take all that money back out of the Main Street investing. So that's just a little bit of information on what's happening. And to be quite honest, it wouldn't surprise me over the next, few years that self-directed IRAs are completely dismantled, because they're controlled by retailers. 401ks are controlled by corporations. And so with retailers being like yourself and anybody can open up an IRA and I could just dump money in it. They want all that money in Wall Street and in the stock market. So they're coming after them. So moving forward, we're going to talk specifically about why the eQRP is a much better vehicle for investing, especially when it comes to real estate or any deal that has debt associated with it. So self-directed IRAs are slower because you've got custodians. Debt is not your friend inside of this plan because there's UBIT tax. And like I said, I'll talk about that in a minute. And you can only contribute $6,000 a year. With an eQRP, they're extremely fast because you are the trustee. The way they're legally built is that you are the trustee over your account, so you can act on your own behalf and you can move really quick. Debt inside of this plan is your friend, so there's no tax associated with it, and you can contribute up to $64,500 a year. That's with the catch-up contribution, but you're looking at a 10x opportunity to contribute as well. With a deal, this is a case study that we had with a client of ours a few years back. They syndicated a deal. The deal structure, and this is going to go into UBIT and how it works and why the IRAs are not a good tool to invest in these alternative assets with. There's a $50 million purchase, and we'll talk percentages here. So 20% was put down in cash, $10 million. 80% was leveraged in debt, $40 million. 5 years later, it sold for $100 million. So if you invested $100,000 from your IRA, you doubled your investment to $200,000. Now $80,000 of that profit owes tax, owes up to $30,000 in tax. Now, why is that? That's this thing called UBIT, which is unrelated business income tax that is triggered by unrelated debt financed income. And it's a tax, they basically tax you up to 37% on the percentage of the debt that was used to get your profit. So if 80% was leveraged, then 80% of that deal, so you see that $80,000 of profit now owes UBIT tax to the government just because, and you're paying up to $30,000 on that. That's money that should be going back into your retirement account. But now, because the government says, well, you used money that wasn't yours to make a higher gain, so we're going to tax you on that. And that is why you're hit with that. So IRAs are going to pay up to $29,000, $30,000 in tax. eQRP investors pay zero. Why is that? It's because we're exempt from the UDFI tax. So we're exempt we're basically able to use debt inside of our deals to supercharge our returns. So think about that number right there. Like that's half a syndication investment. You're looking at $50,000. You could take that and put that back into something else. But now, because you're using your IRA, you got to pay that out to the government, and you've lost out on an ability to make another return or another investment. And with this plan, it gives you the ultimate control. And debt, as we know today, is like one of the greatest tools to generate wealth, right? And especially in real estate, their cash is being printed out at such a rapid pace that why most investors that can use somebody else's money that's not theirs for an interest rate that is extremely cheap, they're going to do it. Uh, so why not use a vehicle that gives you an opportunity to generate a higher return for yourself and not have to pay that tax? So because it sits in a 401k structure, uh, it is exempt from this UDFI. IRAs have UBIT tax in it because it sits in a different tax structure. So that is the reason why that ours is not in there and that it is in IRAs. So if you're invested already in a deal or in a syndication with a self-directed IRA, is there hope for you? Yes. So what it is called an in-kind rollover. So what happens is if you're invested already, I'll give you a little case study. There's an individual who recently came to us. They had a deal that was closing in 3 weeks that was owned by their self-directed IRA. Okay. And what they did is they said, hey, I heard about this UBIT tax. I'm going to have to pay a ton of money and I don't want to do that. Can you guys help me? So we said, yeah, absolutely. What we did is we take the asset and we moved them over into an eQRP, set them up with one, and we re-registered that asset to now from their IRA to their 401k structure. So guess what? We saved that client $30,000 in a taxable event. So that one move right there saved them that much money because they acted quick, they saw an opportunity, and now in the future, they're no longer going to be subject to that anymore. And the whole move itself, like anytime assets move inside of a retirement structure, it's a tax and penalty free event because money's never being distributed. It's just being re-registered and it's not coming out to you as a distribution. Uh, and that's how movement kind of works. You can change vehicles and not be taxed or penalized on it. But in this instance, this saved an individual $30,000, which is awesome. And they left extremely happy and now are obviously super happy to have more control and the ability to invest in things they want with a less taxable liability sitting in front of them. So let's talk about who's qualified. Uh, you got syndicators, you got self-employed individuals, passive investors. If you got a job and you're W-2, absolutely, or if you have up to 50 employees. The way the IRS states you qualify for a plan like this is that you have to be conducting business activity that's subject to a self-employment tax or Social Security tax. So what that means is if you have an LLC that you're paying yourself from, then you can use that income to fund this plan. Or if you yourself are the business unit, right? Like I could be a consultant, I could be sitting out front of my house, selling lemonade to somebody, I could be doing eBay stuff. All of that income could be contributed inside of a plan like this. The way 401ks work is they have to be sponsored by a stream of income. So your W-2 job, any income that you make from there, it has a 401k plan. So any money you make can be contributed to that plan because it's sponsoring that plan. That's how you're earning your income, which gives you the ability to contribute. But you couldn't open up another plan and then contribute money from this stream of income that you make at your W-2 to this other plan because this income does not sponsor this plan. So obviously I'll allow y'all to ask questions on the back end to maybe get some more clarification, but I hope that makes sense in terms of how I explain that. But it's super simple to qualify. Just know that it's not complicated at all. You just have to be conducting business activity and it could be anything. I mean, there's limitless opportunities for you to be doing business activity. So a couple ways to fund the eQRP. I kind of talked about it with contributions a minute ago, but if you have any old, if you have a traditional IRA, old 401ks, SEP IRAs, TSPs, 403Bs, pretty much anything can roll over inside of this plan. as long it is not a Roth IRA or an inherited IRA. The only reason that is because the IRS doesn't allow you to do it. And there's no other explanation outside of that. So any old plans that you have that you rolled over from other jobs or a rollover IRA, any of these things still sitting out there could be used to fund this plan. And you could take control of that money to invest in any sort of syndication opportunity that you'd want to get into. So the contributions, you can put in up to $58,000 a year, 64.5 with the catch-up contribution. You can have deferred and Roth. So you could have both traditional funds and Roth funds sitting in this as well. And there's no income limits that hold you down to what you can contribute each year inside of this plan. So what the Secure Act did during COVID was essentially give you the ability to hire full-time and part-time employees and bring them into this plan. You can hire at any time. There's no restrictions there. So with solo 401ks, what you have to do with those is shut them down anytime you add an individual onto your payroll, not even a part-time individual. They'll make you shut it down and move to a traditional style retirement plan. But this eQRP plan gives you the flexibility to continue self-directing your retirement into a business structure. And we created a product is essentially the same thing as this individual plan, but we call it the safe harbor plan because there's just some different laws. So without going too much into detail with this, you as a business owner have the ability to contribute, or excuse me, to utilize a plan to invest in the alternative assets you want with your business. It includes TPAs, there's fixed fees. So you're never asking like, what is this company charging me to hold this retirement plan there for my company, which is great. You've also got the ability to self-direct as the business owner, right? So there's no more custodians. You've got the checkbook control and asset protection built in. And two, you obviously don't have that UBIT tax. You have the ability to invest in crypto, real estate, gold, and silver, which we talked about, and it's awesome. And there's freedom for everybody. So there's two bonuses that we'll get into that I think is really unique to a plan like this. There's K-Roths and $50,000 line of credit. But before we get into that, I'll just kind of give you a real quick tidbit here of being a real estate professional. And I don't know if any of you are, but being a real estate professional with a plan like this is great because we had a client of ours that she was a dentist and her husband was a real estate professional. And they wanted to convert $300,000 of their traditional 401k to Roth. And so they had bought $1 million building earlier that year and we're going to realize $300,000 in bonus depreciation. So what happened is they were going to convert $300,000 of their retirement to Roth, and then they took the bonus depreciation and then washed the whole event. So they essentially converted their retirement to Roth tax-free, which is insane. But that's just comes with the more knowledge that you have about what's out there and available to you. And that's what we love to do, is be able to educate our clients about opportunities like this that otherwise they wouldn't know. So that's just a really cool story of a client of ours that had a massive taxable liability released from her just because of her specific situation and her husband being a real estate professional. So there's this thing called a K-Roth, which if you have kids and you've got a business to which you're utilizing your kids. So for instance, Philip, if you were a dentist and you were going to utilize your kid to do some photography for a billboard or something, right? You could pay your kid up to $12,000 a year for work rendered. You can take that as a tax write-off, and that is looked at as Roth dollars. So up to $12,000, everything is Roth. You can invest that money for your kid and you can pull the basis out at any time, right? So by the time they get to college, you can pull all your basis out that you had put in there. Let's just say you had it for 10 years. You could pull $120,000 out to pay for their college. You realize the write-offs on it, right? And all that money that you've invested for them is tax-free until they retire, which is awesome. So it's a really unique opportunity to utilize your kids in another way to get another tax deduction, right? If you're generating a lot of income. But I just think that's a really cool tidbit that not a lot of people know either.
You have
And there's
more
also,
kids.
huh?
You have more kids.
Yeah, yeah, be the Brady Bunch over there. So you can also do a $50,000 line of credit guaranteed. So Damien, our CEO, had a black card, American Express, which, you know, at some point in my life I'll be able to hold one. Probably never will, but I always imagine like whoever owns an American Express black card is having a helicopter come like fly to their house, and ropes come out and they drop down this really beautiful steel briefcase and run up to your door and open it up, and you just like pick out this little card out of the box and you're like, hey, you're now a super important person. But the bad thing about credit cards, right, is that you don't control the credit. They allow you the ability to you know, realize a credit line, but they could control it at any time. So what happened back in 08 is he had this card and he went to go to Costco to buy a big pallet of toilet paper. And he went to go pay for it. And they said, Mr. Lupo, your card's been declined. And he's like, what are you talking about? I got a black card. Like, you don't tell somebody with a black card that they've been declined. There is no decline. You just let me buy what I want at all times. There's no limit. They said, no, you've got your card's declining. So he calls up there, and what they did is they froze his account and gave him an $11,000 limit. And that goes to show, though, that when you need something, right, at any given time, in that moment when he needed it, he didn't have it. The great thing about this plan is that if you have, $50,000 or half of that in your plan, you can pull that out. And at any given time, there's no credit check, there's no, friction for you getting that money. If you need it, you can take it, and then you just pay the plan back over a 5-year period at a +/- interest rate. So you're kind of like making a small investment with yourself that you're paying back to your plan. You're not giving it to a bank. You took a loan against yourself and you're paying yourself back with interest, which is really cool. So there's that really cool feature. And two, coming to a close, like one of the biggest things that I think is really on boomers and millennials' mind is retirement. There's a lot of people out there worrying about how they're going to have enough when they get to the end of their life. And that's what we're here to do, is help alleviate that concern just with education. We get on and work with syndicators and investors every single day and teach them how to utilize a plan like this for their benefit and financial future. And so we love bringing people that are hungry for education into our community, those that really want financial control, to invest in the things that they want, real hard assets like real estate, right? We love that. And we want you to be the heroes of your financial journey. So we're not advisors. A lot of people look at us as advisors, but we're not. We're coaches. We'll only tell you how to do something. We'll never tell you what to do. So if you came to us and said, hey, I've got this specific situation I'm looking to get into, can you give me some insight as to, am I thinking about this right? Am I asking the right questions? And we can peel back your situation and, potentially save you some headache when it comes to getting yourself in trouble, or helping you out with a taxable liability event, and ultimately just giving you the confidence to do it yourself. Because, if you already have that knowledge sitting in your head, and you're investing your dollars already into deals with your taxable income, then why not take that same approach with your retirement and get into the same deals that you're getting into with your taxable income? So if you want to get in touch with me, this is my email, and I know that Philip will shoot you my info as well, should you have any questions, and would love to have a conversation with you all on the back end, if you do. So this is my information below. It's parker@eqrp.co. It's my cell. That's my direct line. It's an iPhone. So if you want to text me, feel free to do that. We can set some time up. And I think that's all that I got. So I will stop sharing and I will turn I think you may be host now. I'll just give it right back to you.
Well, thanks, Parker. That was great information, I would say. A lot of things that I didn't know about. Um, so um, so now we can have Q&A questions if anyone has any questions. I did have a few questions if no one has any questions for now.
Actually, I did have a question with the Roth K.
Yeah.
So this only applies if the child that you're applying the IRA to has earned income, right? So what scenarios have you seen this happen? I remember you saying kid in photo shoot, but what's another? Let's say my kid isn't photogenic or something. What's a scenario that you can apply this on?
It's literally just work rendered. You as a business owner could pay them for anything, right? Like any work that they could possibly do for you, whether it's just picking up trash around your office or, I mean, you can get really creative with it. It's as long as it's just work that you paid them for, then you can do it. And you can obviously, if you had to get audited on that, you could show them like, hey, no, they did this and this is what I paid them. And you get to determine that. So, as long as it's fair and you're not paying your kid like $500 an hour to pick up trash, you're just saying, hey, throughout the course of the year, they did this and I'm just paying them X.
And then you said that you could in turn take out the principal that you invested in that IRA. And you said that would be non-tax deductible.
Yeah, so you can write off anything that you contribute into the retirement plan on your kid's behalf, and then it's realized as a Roth. So this is a 401k structure, right? I hear you saying IRA. Just want to make sure we're clear that
yes,
this is 401k we're talking about. And the basis can be pulled out at any time, right? I think there's like a 3 to 5 year hold before you can, after you put in Roth funds, right, before you can touch it. But the gains that you make on that basis, right, can not be touched until retirement age. So the great thing is, though, is that, you can invest your kids' income that you put inside of this from a Roth basis. And then when they have the ability to take over that account and invest their own, I mean, they could have 40, 50 years of investing a good chunk of Roth income that you help set them up with, which is awesome. It's a legacy move right there.
Yeah. So compared to individual Roth, where we would get there would be a fee if we withdraw early before retirement. With a Roth K, after the 5-year probably lockup period, where we are able to withdraw the basis after that. Wow. Okay. It's incredible.
Yes. So when your kid goes to college, right, you could pull out that income to pay for their college, that basis.
It's insane. That's good to know. Thank you for that.
Parker, your email is parker@eqrp.co, right?
Yep. .co. There is no M.
Too used to.
It's okay. Like when I first had it, I was like, why is it .co? I've never seen this before. They missed the M.
Right. So with the eQRP, you have to have your own business, right? In order to contribute to this vehicle. Yes?
Yeah. So don't get confused. When I say overthink it, you can be a business entity. So if I went out and, set up shop on my front lawn and started selling lemonade to just randos driving by, I don't have to actually sell lemonade. Like I don't have to earn any income. It's the act of doing the business activity that in turn, if somebody did stop and buy, then that income that I make would be able to be contributed to the plan. I'm acting as my own business entity, right? But you yourself, Philip, have set up your own LLC and you're like, yeah, I have an online business. I have, a couple single family rentals and all these other things tied up in this LLC, and then I pay myself a W-2 out of this LLC, then that money that you make could be contributed to the plan. But there are people who just use a plan like this to roll other retirement plans over. So if you had an old 401k from another company with, and people can start with $0 with this plan. You don't have to have money to start it. But a lot of people utilize their old retirement plans to say, hey, I've got $100,000 sitting over here, not doing me anything. I want to take control of that and invest it in something that's going to give me a better return. All right. So I'll ask them, what do you do? And they're like, well, I'm a W-2, have a W-2 job. And I'm like, okay, well, what else do you do? You have any side hustles that you do, or do you have any sort of business activity that you're generating somewhere else? And like, well, I have a small consulting thing that I do kind of part-time. Then I'm like, well, there you go. You qualify. Or you could be, the options are limitless, but they'll take that money, roll it over, and then they'll just start investing in syndications and whatever else they want to get into. So there's, like I said, the two ways to put money in is either through old retirement plans or contributions.
Mhm. Okay. So we have a question in the chat from
Yeah.
Bridget. Her question is, if the government is beginning to mobilize policies to start depreciating self-directed IRAs, what about eQRP? Are they beginning to go after this too?
So it's a good question. And the short answer to that is the reason that they aren't going after us is because we're 401ks, and IRAs are predominantly retail based, being that all of us can just go out and buy one, and they're set up. So politicians, are in bed with Wall Street because they influence policy that then influences their companies. And so the IRA market, since it's controlled by retailers and people like us that put money in the stock market, but now we have this option to be able to move it into other alternative assets that they don't get any income off of. This IRA market is trillions of dollars. Okay. The 401k market is so small right now. But they aren't going to touch the 401k market because they're controlled by corporations, right? And we all know the money that sits behind corporations in general is a lot bigger. But the self-directed 401k market is very small compared to the self-directed IRA market. So could they come after us? Absolutely. Do I think that it's going to be anytime soon? Absolutely not, because they still have yet to get rid. They've already upended and made it a lot more painful to invest with a self-directed IRA. And they will most likely get rid of it probably in the next few years because it was on the chopping block. We realized the threat that was out there. And fortunately, they didn't, because of, honestly, I think of the thousands of jobs that are associated with these environments, right? But the reality is that there's a big target on their back now. And they're still not a good investment vehicle for anything that has debt associated with it, or if you want total control of your retirement. So they aren't going after 401ks though anytime soon. And that's what the eQRP is a self-directed 401k.
Yeah. So if anyone has any more questions, you can continue asking. I still have some questions, but I'll wait to see if anyone has any other questions before I ask. Or you can type it in the chat and we can read it from there. Okay. So with the eQRP, it's basically like a 401k. So you can take a loan out of it, right? And
Yep.
Hey, so theoretically you can pay your student loans out of it. And you're saying the interest goes back into the 401k or the eQRP, right? So there's no extra interest that goes to some person that manages or anything.
So yeah, let's say you could offset the interest payments with your student loans by taking this loan out of your retirement plan. Let's just say you had a $50,000 outstanding student debt. You could take $50,000 from your retirement plan, pay off the corporation or whoever you're paying that to, replace that 7-8% or what 9%, who knows what it could be. They're all over the place. And then pay yourself back. So now you're paying your interest back to yourself versus to another corporation where you're just losing money. So it's a creative way to like offset, take like if you're at 8% to a positive 4%. I mean, you're looking at a 12% swing your way, which is huge.
Right. And is there like a certain period where you have to pay off the loan to your eQRP?
There's a 5-year period to pay it back. And then anything that you don't pay back is then realized as you'd have to take it as a distribution and just pay income taxes on it.
Mm-hmm. So is there a penalty associated to that? Because usually, like, when you withdraw from retirement plans before you're of age, I don't know, 59 or whatever, you have to pay like a 10% penalty or something.
Well, so it's like defaulting on a loan, right? So you would have to pay a 10% penalty on that. But you would pay, like, let's just say it was, you had $5,000 left to pay, then you'd be paying a 10% penalty, so like $500 penalty, and then the income tax on that $5,000. So you might think, well, okay, that's not like that big a deal.
Mm-hmm. And then you have that scenario where somebody moved their capital from an eQRP to a Roth when they're a real estate professional. Mm-hmm. Why would it be beneficial to move from the eQRP to a Roth? Was it a Roth IRA or was it a Roth 401k?
No, it's a Roth 401k. So the eQRP is a 401k. So I say Roth. Most people think of Roths as Roth IRAs because that's what's marketed, right? So I understand how we all kind of think about it in that way. But with this plan, they had traditional dollars and they said, we want to convert that into Roth dollars. So they said, we're going to take this 300,000, convert that, pay the income tax on it. But the husband, they had bought this $1 million building and had $300,000 in bonus depreciation. And so what that did is the taxes they were going to pay on that 300,000, they got to write off that 300,000 and then zapped. Mm-hmm. So now everything is basis inside of their retirement account that they just essentially got to write it off, right, which is incredible. Wish that was me.
Anyone have any questions? I still have one more question. Okay. So can you use your eQRP to invest in your own syndications?
You cannot. And the reason that is, it's just called self-dealing. You can't use your retirement account to benefit yourself in any way. And that's why our team is here. We're like an Apple Genius Bar for our clients to be able to answer literally any scenario you could possibly think of. We can basically work through that and let you know whether it's qualified or not. So everything has to be done in arm's length distance. So if you had a friend that had a really good deal going on, you obviously could invest in that. But if your wife had a deal going on, you could not invest in her syndication. And the reason that is that when you get into syndication, you could go into a syndication with your wife that you had 50 or 60 other investors in it, because it's not like the deal wouldn't happen without your investment in there, right? But if it was like a 50-50 split to where you and your wife were going in to buy a house with your retirement, then $500,000 was there and you were going to put 250 in and she was going to put 250 in, then it would be benefiting you because you could manipulate that deal in a way to which it would fall outside the parameters of a passive investment that's controlled by somebody else. So, there's so many hypothetical scenarios we talk through with people all the time, and it's really quite fun to see all the creative things that people are doing out there at their retirement. But it helps us be able to, give people like yourself the confidence to go out there and make sure that you're doing it right and you're staying compliant and safe with your investments.
Mhm. Okay. And the last thing is, so how does one start an eQRP? Is there certain steps that your company has already put in, systems to put in that helps?
Yeah, so we're a white glove service. We set everything up from start to finish for our clients. So the pricing models are different depending on your situation in terms of getting in, but we work through that on the front end to kind of understand your situation better and what you're looking to do. So what we do on the front end is we establish all the plan documents for you from scratch. We handle all the rollover process for you. So if you had other retirement accounts that you wanted to get moved over, we handle all the paperwork with that, so you don't have to worry about it. We set up the bank accounts that you'd operate out of. We also build in asset protection inside of the plan in form of a Wyoming LLC. And what that is just a pass through for your investments. And in the event somebody comes after you, let's just say you had a single family rental and the front porch fell in your retirement plan owned that, they could come after your personal assets, right? But because it's in Wyoming, they couldn't attack your retirement assets and anything that you have sitting in there because of the way the LLC is built, the anonymity, those things. So that's why we use Wyoming. Then we do basically each year all the filings for you. So any 1099-Rs that need to be generated or 5500s. We also just added in up to $50,000 of audit protection. So right now, I don't know if y'all heard this, but the IRS is seeking to employ 87,000 new agents, 5 times the amount of IRS agents that are out there, which means 5 times more the audits that are going to be coming. And so, we buy house insurance in the event that our house has a fire, right? We just pay for it because you never know when it's going to happen. But when it does, we've learned that the average audit is going to cost you probably close to $30,000, depending on what the situation is, how deep they go, right? But when it happens, it's not going to be fun. And you obviously don't want to stress about how am I going to pay for like the accounting hours and everything that comes along with that, right? So our team's here to give you that as well as a part of what we do and provide you with a team that is extremely well versed in audits. And that's somebody that we personally use, our own accountants at Provision Wealth. It used to be Robert Kiyosaki's accountants. And so that's another added bonus that we've added in that nobody else is doing in the self-directed space. So, we're on the forefront of this environment, and we really want to make sure that our clients feel loved, cared for, supported, confident. And so that's why we're doing what we're doing, and want to make sure that you guys are the real heroes in the process, which is why we take over everything from start to finish for you and then support you as much as you want us to on the back end. So, you could say, hey, Parker, can we have a Zoom call and I need to run through a bunch of stuff with you. Absolutely. We don't charge you by the hour or anything like that. It's just what you get with our team.
Sounds great. It's 7:30. So I just wanted to thank Parker for giving the presentation, coming here and taking his time out of his day to give us all this information that's been so useful, and so mind-blowing in a sense too. And I'd like to thank everyone that came to this webinar. It's our first webinar for our company. So thank you for coming, and I wish you guys have a great rest of your night. Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you for having me on, guys, and it was a pleasure. And if any of y'all want to connect with me, just get with Philip, and he can, y'all can obviously email me, call me, but he can connect you with me too if y'all want to have a further conversation about your personal situation.